I don't typically watch Grammys, but when I watched it because I thought Adele was the shit. When she went on there and won like 5 or 6 of them, I had an epiphany. I said, oh, she was so good that I said, the Grammys aren't validating Adele.
No.
Adele's validating the Grammys.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, okay, I'm starting to see what this really is. And that's kind of where, my thought were, okay, awards are great, but Adele was going to be the shit whether she won those Grammys or not, So anyway, you got me.
No,
you sent me on a tangent, Zach.
You're listening to the Gabe Molina podcast.
So we have a mutual friend,
yes.
Bill Moyer. He's a hypnotherapist.
Yes.
And it's funny because when I first met him, my sister-in-law said, hey, you need to meet my friend. He's a hypnotherapist. Maybe get him on the podcast. And I'll be honest with you, like my only knowledge of hypnotherapy was like what you see on TV, right? And they make people act like chickens and run around. And so...
Wait, he didn't bring out a watch for you?
No, he didn't at all. I
might have gone to the wrong clinic.
Did you act like a chicken?
No.
Yes. It was funny because it was very normal. Like I had this preconceived notion of what was going to happen. And part of me was kind of nervous, right? And I was going there because, for one, to get to know him and to record a podcast. And then he was like, well, we'll do a session. And I said, okay. And I said, well, I'm getting my wisdom teeth pulled out. Like, this was like at like 40 or 44 or something. I don't know. Old. And so I said, but I'm super nervous about it. I get nervous about going to the dentist. I have the worst. I gag. It's so gross. But so he goes, well, come in. We'll talk about it. I said, okay. And I told my wife, I said, I'm legitimately going to give this a try. Like, I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to treat it like a joke. I'm going to legitimately go and be honest, right? And which typically I start off everything with a joke, not honesty. And so we talk a little bit. I think we recorded, and then he put me in a chair. So he dims the lights, and he put the headphones on, and he starts talking to you, and it sounds like he's 10 miles away, And
just like those videos that you see, like an 80s music video where the lady's like face is like translucent up in the background,
and it's you can kind of you can see through her, and she's just whispering to you from the beyond.
It's like an Enya song.
There you go. And so he's like, it was funny because he told, and this is kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where I told you I have a hard time having fun. So he goes, relax, just relax. And it was funny because every time he would tell me to relax, it would piss me off. Like, super strange. I know. This is where I'm screwed up. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm holding this pillow. I'm sitting in the nice chair. And he's like, relax. And every time he tells me that, it makes me angry. And so I started getting tense. I started getting these twitching in my muscles. And this is where it gets super weird, right? I start seeing these, like my eyes are closed, so like everything kind of looks reddish brown or something, And I'm starting to see like angry eyes, but they were like in a comic book format, right? With the squares, different size squares, different size eyes. And every time he would tell me to relax, they would pop up faster and faster and faster, these angry eyes. And it was interesting because I started getting irritated and, starting to tense up. After, I don't know, it felt like 10 minutes or so. It's probably not quite that long, but they started slowing down. And then they stop while he's continuing to talk to me. And I started to relax. It took me a long time to get there.
Yeah.
But like now I'm relaxed. And it's funny because, long story short, because I've talked about it before, we came down to, I miss my childhood experiences with my friends, And he made me cry twice. My eyes started sweating, and because I don't cry, and so now I cry.
Big boys don't cry. Big boys don't cry.
I cry all the time, and so it was funny because at the end we just talked a little bit about the dentist, You know, at the end it was like, hey, you're gonna go, you're gonna have a good experience. You're
Conclusion, pat on the back. Send
Right.
it. Yeah.
super simple. Like we spent more time in like me missing hanging out with my friends. And then at the end, I was like, oh yeah, the dentist is going to be cool too, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was funny because like my wife was like, do you think it worked? I said, I don't know. You know, I went home. I think I went to the dentist like 3 or 4 days later. And I'm sitting there getting dressed to go to the dentist. And I remember thinking to myself, like, and this is the type of person I am. I get a lot of anxiety. I will call the dentist 15 minutes before I'm supposed to be there and be like, hey, I can't make it, you know? And I told her, I said, I don't have anxiety right now. Like, I'm not freaking out. I'm not wanting to call the dentist and cancel. I said, maybe it's working. Went to the dentist. Everything went great. Went home. Recovery was a little rough, but
As it is. Yeah.
as it is. But it was funny because, like, I told my wife, I said, that was 3 or 4 months of the most calm I've ever been. Even going to work, I wasn't stressed out, you know. It was stressful at work, but I didn't let it get to me. I'd come home, I'd relax, I was sleeping better. I told her, I said, I don't remember, I can't remember the last time. I'm sure I've been calm throughout my life at some point, hopefully, but I couldn't remember when I had felt that calm. And so when people go, do you think hypnotherapy works? I say, yeah, I think it does, because it felt pretty good.
And it's so interesting because people, like you said, you have the preconceived notion when you go into hypnotherapy. So you try to go around and you try to tell people that you're going to do hypnotherapy, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Sounds a
Like,
little kooky.
This sounds a little weird. Are you sure?
Is somebody gonna look in your crystal ball?
Like, you know, and so I went there for, I actually got, I kind of have done peaks and valleys through kind of like therapy and stuff. I had a really tough depression coming out of college. I got a job and then got fired from the job, and then was trying to find myself and didn't want to do math.
Let me tell you something.
That was my degree.
I've gotten fired before, and it's amazing how much that'll affect you. Because it's like it's almost
Yeah.
a sense of like, we don't want you. It's almost like a breakup with a wife or a girlfriend, you know?
Yeah, and it's good. It's good. I'll circle back to that at some point. But I have a tendency to choose to learn from the experiences, and so you know, getting fired was like a door opening, and it was like, okay, that's fine. I didn't want to be there anyway. It's fine. Started to learn how to box. Got into drugs. Got into
Like boxing?
boxing.
Okay.
I did about like 900 hours of training in 3 months.
Oh, wow.
So it's there. I just haven't used it since then.
Yeah.
It'd be like riding a bike. It'd be like opening it back up. But and so I got really depressed and really you know, drugs and stuff, and like, who am I? What's my
What
purpose?
drug you into the
And-
drugs? Was it? Have you always had some experience with that, or did something
No,
happen where?
it started. It was from the boxing trainer.
Oh,
Actually, was incited by that, and it was just weed, and that was it. I've never really been a drinker because I don't like feeling out of control. Although marijuana makes you feel out of control, so I don't know.
you know what's funny about pot? Everybody, listen.
You know what I like about pot?
Well, this is what's funny about pot. Like, everybody who smokes pot regularly thinks that they are more in control than what they actually are.
It's true.
So, like, I've had experience with people. I don't smoke. I every now and then I'll do an edible here or there. Like if I want to go to sleep or whatever, I'm having a hard time sleeping. Smoking, I've smoked pot a couple times, but I'm a fat out of shape guy, so I'm always ready to go to sleep. And pot just puts me to sleep. So like I'm like, I don't need to smoke it because I'm already ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
But like everybody else that I've they're like, oh, pot doesn't affect me like that. I just don't want to go anywhere. I just feel like staying home all day and
Okay.
playing video games and sleeping, you know? So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, no, and so, I mean, I'm 4 years sober now, but there was
That's
a
good.
time where I was doing that, and I vaped for a while, and that was just an unhealthy little period. And then when my cat passed away, I kind of took that as an opportunity. She's my best friend.
Yeah.
That's kind of where all my music came from, but not kind of, it is.
Yeah.
But
What was your cat's name?
Callie.
Callie? Okay.
Yeah, she was around for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Throughout my childhood, from like 8 to 24, and then she passed, and then I wrote that first song that I showed you, and then it took me a year, and it wasn't until a year later that I started writing. It was kind of like a seed had to get planted and grow and water, and but no, I took that opportunity to take better care of myself, as opposed to like, such a traumatic thing taking you even deeper. I was already at my lowest in mentally and everything. And so I chose to go back up from that. And that was kind of like the healing process. And so I did talk therapy, going back to hypnotherapy. But I did talk therapy.
Oh, is that just sitting in a conversation? Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like
typical therapy was.
Yeah, typical therapy.
Gotcha.
And then I did neurotherapy, which is you sit in a chair and you watch TV and you put like little diodes on your head. And the lady, she's super sweet, but like looks at different brainwave functions and where your brain is. And the TV will like dimmer and brighten based on like giving your brain like a reward system. And so the brighter the TV is, the more that the brain's like, oh, I'm doing something right. And so it's retraining neural pathways.
Oh, wow.
In order to elicit whatever, anxiety, depression, food disorder, whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's more that I didn't utilize it for.
Sure.
After that, did some life coaching, and then took a break from therapy just altogether. And then finally talked to a neighbor of mine, and she had a friend, and she was like, yeah, I go to hypnotherapy. I was like, this sounds so interesting. Tell me about that. And so I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's just see what it is. And I think I used the first session as like a fear of travel, just to kind of just like do that. For me now, afterwards, traveling's just not something that I just care for. It's kind of like a hassle, but I'll do it if I need to.
Yeah.
Before it was just like, I got to get on a plane. I got to do this. I got to, meal prep. I got to, but I would think about it before even planning a trip.
Well, that starts to increase your anxiety, right? Because
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, I'm the same way. Like, if I have time to think about something that I'm fixing to go into, like my brain starts thinking of all the things that I need to do and what ifs.
It's the preparation. It's the brain's way of trying to, at least based on my research. Not that I'm like a doctor or anything,
Well,
but
You got a microphone in front of you, so we're pretty knowledgeable.
I know everything. It's the brain's way of trying to maintain safety because it wants to, if you know what's going to happen, then you know what's going to happen. There's nothing to worry about. So if you don't know what's going to happen, well, let me lay out all of these different scenarios and all of these different options in order to...
It's funny that you say that because when I think about my experience, like I do that. And it's kind of like when I find what's the worst thing that can happen, and when I go, okay, I'm okay with that, then that's when my anxiety goes down.
Alternatively, what's the best that can happen?
You see, my mind doesn't go there. My mind goes to the worst,
Well, I mean, I think everyone's does because it wants to fix an issue. You want to find something to solve. And
right.
So if you're that type of person, I'm that type of person as well. But if you want to find a problem to solve, then you go to, well, what's the worst that can happen? And then why would I feel that way? And then how can I fix that? And then 2 hours go by and you're like, well, I just spend all that time doing nothing,
It's not accomplishing anything.
Yeah.
We used to ride motorcycles, me and my siblings, and this sounds morbid, but like there were times that we would ride and it would be super windy or the weather wouldn't be optimal, and like we'd be in the hill country, we'd take turns, and like I would stiffen up because in my mind I'd see like gravel on the side of the road. I'm like, man, if my back tire hits that, I'm going into the concrete barrier. Like that's where my mind was. Everybody's having a great time riding, and I'm envisioning myself hitting the gravel and hitting the barrier and what that would be like. Like that's not normal. I don't think.
I think
You can say it's fucked up.
no. No, I think it's kind of what you were alluding to before. It's kind of just like this tension that you have, sometimes, whether that's around fun or whether that's around whatever. And it's just kind of like, if I tense up, it's also the protective thing, right? If I tense up and I'm just like this, everything will be fine because I'm in control. And then it generally comes down to some kind of form of control or something. So like
maybe I need therapy because you're hitting everything that pertains to me. Like I like I've talked to a few therapists. I've had a couple therapists on her, and it's funny because like I'm comfortable in being uncomfortable, and when I'm comfortable is when I get nervous also. Like it doesn't get better.
Interesting.
And I'll tell you where I think it might stem from. When I was a kid in high school, and I think I get this from my mom too, but my sister had moved out. I'd always shared a room with my brothers. My sister moved out. I was getting her room. She was leaving this huge sound system in the house for me, and I had just bought Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. Life was good. And I remember sitting in that room. It was clean. I had just gotten a new jacket mom bought me when she'd gone to Corpus. And I'm sitting there going, man, everything's going perfect. And I remember thinking to myself, something bad's going to happen. And that night, we had 4 friends die in a car accident. And I remember Dad waking us up around 2 or 3 to tell us what had happened. And so I feel like as an adult, as I've progressed, like I'm always anticipating the bad thing coming. So even when we're trying to have fun as family or, as an individually or with my wife, it's like I'm never truly invested in the fun. I'm constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I think it's also, for me too, and I mean, I still feel like that a lot, but it comes down to like the self-awareness of being like, oh, I'm at the water park. And then you hear this voice coming in the back of your head, and he's just like, oh, what if the whole water park explodes?
And what if everyone drowns and everyone dies?
And you're just like, no, I'm with my family. And so I think that there's like this anticipatory, I think people live in, the solution to a lot of problems is the present, is my like philosophy.
Like just being in the present?
Being in the present.
Gotcha.
And because, we all carry trauma, whatever it is, or maybe, nothing bad's ever happened to you and you're like super lucky, God bless you. But like, work through the past, go through your trauma, heal, do whatever you need to do. Don't overdo it, but do what you need to do. And then you're left with the present and the future. And usually the future is anxiety because it's unknown. A comet could come and just hit Earth and just throw it into the sun right now, and then all of our anxiety will just be up in heaven like, well, that wasn't worth my time, And so the solution to all of that is the present, which is why, circling back a little bit, is why I went to Dr. Moyer 2 weeks ago, and then I'm seeing him again next week, because I have like this, it's ADHD. It's a little bit of time distortion. Time likes to, like when time flies, it feels a little more different for ADHD people. I just like started figuring out that was a connection. And so figuring out or seeing if hypnotherapy could be helpful to that, to give your brain the power that it needs to regulate dopamine in a certain way. And Dr. Moyer will know more about that than me, than the internet. Sure. So,
well, in your experiences, do you feel like the hypnotherapy's kind of contributed, or what therapies that you've been through do you think you maybe got? Not to say one's better than the other. Maybe just different times in your life, one's more effective. But in the different therapies that you've experienced, which ones do you think have been a little bit more impactful?
Hypnotherapy the most,
okay.
But that's also kind of the same mentality of being like, like this this president's been around forever. You know, whichever president it is, when the same, I don't know, you feel different at different points in your life, right? And so I'm sure that when I was doing talk therapy, it was the most helpful thing ever for me.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, and so not a great analogy about the president. So
Sure.
just throw that away. You like fish, and sometimes you reel back and you don't get anything. But I'd say, I mean, talk therapy was great to like massage kind of the area, get it really working, get it ready. Neurotherapy was like digging in, and then hypnotherapy's been like that really deep work.
Okay.
So each kind of have served their purpose.
You know, it's interesting. The frosty side of Gabe goes, therapy. Right?
I think everyone does, to be fair.
The wheat side of Gabe goes, therapy, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's sometimes, and I'm going to sound super stupid, but I feel like there's times in my life where I go, my wife's like, maybe you need therapy. And I'm like, I already know everything, you know? And that's kind of my stupid approach to this is I'm like, I already know the problems. I don't have time to fix them because there's too many problems, you know? And so I was the guy that you mentioned a minute ago where I wasn't focused on the present and the future. I kept looking to the past. And it's funny because I think when I get most blue, I hate to say depressed because I've been depressed, but I don't think I'm always depressed. Sometimes I'm just blue, right? And like, I think when that happens is I think back to my childhood and things were really good, man. Like my dad's childhood sucked. You know, my siblings' childhood was not great, but mine was really good. My dad had 5 kids with 3 women. And so my mom was his last wife, and so I'm the youngest, right? So by that time, Dad still had some issues, but he was doing well. You know, we all like sports, and we like getting together and talking trash and picking on each other, but being loving and doing things together. Like I think back to like my childhood, and it was really good, you know? Dad and Mom always created a place where we could come home if we needed to, you know? It wasn't like, I can't ever go home. You know, it was like, oh, I'll go try this. If it doesn't work, I can always go home, you know? And so, like, we had a lot of fun, man, growing up. We had a ton of fun. And we're kind of fucked up people, too. So a lot of it was just kind of like us picking on each other. That was fun, too. But it's funny because, like, I tell my wife, I'm like, you know, we got married. We wanted to have a family. We couldn't have kids. So it was almost like when we couldn't have kids, like we were older now. And, like, I sit there and go, there's almost like this line in the sand where I go, well, what do I have to look forward to? I don't know, you know? Everybody's older. You know, our nieces and nephews aren't the way we were growing up. But I look back and I go, all my good shit already happened. And maybe that's not true, but in my mind, I'm like, all my good shit already happened. Like, what's to come and what's to look forward to? And I can't think of anything.
I actually just talked with a friend of mine. When did I see him? I don't know. Time. Like I'm saying, time.
Sure.
Time,
No.
Time.
But you did see him, so.
I did see him, I think. I might have made him up. I don't know.
I've got a few friends like that.
But no, I met him in my acting class. But he's been in California for a little while, like doing the LA thing, you know, stretching his legs and following his dream, and doing, you know, what he needs to do. And he came back, and he's talking to me, and he's like, nothing's working out, and he you know, all this stuff. And we sat. I think we talked about this for like 2 hours, and he's like, nothing's working out. I just can't. I can't figure it out. What if my best times are already behind me? And this kid's like 23, and I'm like, A, stop talking. B, like, you're so young. Like go, like, you know, like, but I think, and it's like a perspective shift for him because he has these huge, massive dreams. So do I. But you know, you have these massive dreams. So he wants to be like a super accomplished actor. So I said, okay, pretend that right now, like literally right now, you just accomplished all that. What now? And he goes, I don't know. I guess I want to be in some like really deep roles that are fulfilling to me. Okay, that's done. You just did it. Now what? He goes, just serving God and just being with God. And I was like, wow, look at your like. So, and I think we also.
That's a good way to look at things.
I think we also have a tendency to try to think that some, ice cream shop with Nana, was like the best moment of my life, when every moment is a gift from God and can be the best moment of your life. Every single one. I treat every single piece of art that I've ever made equally. Nothing. I remember an interview with, I don't remember, but it was someone was like, yeah, I wrote like 100 songs this year and some of them are shit. And I'm like, no, you love your craft. Some of them you're not going to put on an album. Some of them you might just like keep for yourself, but you create this like even spread of love. And I think that can be said for the same. I think that can also be said for time. You can treat every moment as
you and a handful of other people I talk to. When I talk to you guys, I sit here and I go, fuck, I'm fucked up.
No.
I'll tell you how fucked up I am. I've got a painting, or it's a picture.
Is it the picture of Dorian Gray? Because that would be fucked up.
No.
If it's any other painting, it's fine.
It's a picture of my wife's great niece. And it's super cute. She's probably 1 or 2 years old. She's in a cute dress. And she's got this little thing in her hair. And she's covering her face because she's playing peekaboo. And she's sitting on stairs. And I started to sketch it on the canvas so I could paint it. I think I tried to. I need to redo it. But she's 1 or 2 in the picture. I stopped working on it because I couldn't get her left foot to look correct. And so the rest of it was looking pretty decent. Like I was getting ready to add paint to it. I had already sketched it with pencil. But the left foot did not look correct. And so I just put it in the closet. Every now and then I'd pull it out. I'd work on it again. I'd put it back in the closet. She's 12 now. And it's still where it was 10 years ago when I started it. And part of me sits there and goes, and this is kind of like, I think it was David Lee Roth talking to Joe Rogan one time, and he talked about the Japanese have a word for perfection and imperfection. And it's funny because, and I've had another friend of mine.
Are you talking about kintsugi?
Maybe. I'd have to look it up again.
It's where I guess you could. Never mind. Continue. Sorry.
Well, and so I have that problem where it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's kind of where, like, even with this thing, I'm like, dude, make all the noise you want, please. When I first started this, like, everything had to be, in my mind, what I wanted. And now it's like, no, that's not the important part. The important part is the conversation, right? Not, where are we sitting? How's the microphone set up? What is the lighting doing? Like, all that's important, right? Visually and audially for people to like absorb it and want to continue listening to the whole thing, right? But it's kind of like, I'm trying to get away from the perfection portion of it because it slows me down, or it even stops me from doing anything. We talked about art and wanting to be artistic, and you're very involved in it. I wish I could continue, but like, I get to the point, and we talked about it earlier about, like, if you're going to choose to be an artist, you've got to have a support structure, and for me, financially, there's not that support structure.
For sure.
So like, that's the first thing that gets cut out when I don't have time. When the father-in-law gets sick, when my mom breaks a bone, or there's a birthday party I need to probably go to because I haven't been to them, or a wedding or a funeral, and then work's crazy, and then I take on a second job. It's like, okay, what can I cut out? Well, I cut out my creative portion of me, and I really want to reconnect with that again.
Yeah, and I think there's. I'd be interested to see what would happen if the next time you have time, if you gave yourself one last erase, and then whatever you drew after that, and then immediately paint the left foot first, and then you've like secured it, and you're like, oh, game on,
I might just put a flower there.
This will solve everything.
Hey, fuck the left foot. I'm putting a flower there.
That wasn't in the original picture.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing?
No, but I think there's you're talking about support, having pillars of support, and I have my first voice acting coach was she specialized in a lot of different things, and she was also like doing voice acting to help like business owners and corporate executives and stuff like that to really like because the craft of knowing how to talk to somebody and knowing like good vocal health and that type of stuff is really important. And so being able to deliver your message and acting and all that anyway. But she was saying that one of her pieces of advice to me is that there's 6 columns that you have in your life. Forgive me if I forget one of them, but you have family, you have friends, you have religion, you have hobbies, job, and then you have art, I think. And so hobbies, job, yeah, something.
Maybe being creative, just in general.
I think so. I always forget.
Yeah.
Forget the last one. And so if you're like, I have a good family life, I don't know God, I don't have any friends, I have this and I have this, and so you're like you're teetering in this area, and so the more support that you have in that, you can fulfill whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish.
What's funny is and we'll get into your relationship with God and how, whether it's always been there or how it came about, but it's funny because I've had conversations with folks, and one in particular is my buddy Bob, who runs a Narcotics Anonymous kind of thing down in South Texas, called South Texas Recovery, I believe. And Bob used to be real bad on drugs. It was funny because the first podcast we did, he would make reference to something divine, but he wouldn't call it God. And it was just a spirituality, it was something. And it was interesting because the second podcast we did, he talked about God. And it's funny because like I've told multiple people that, I think I may have told my brother on the last one too, but as a youth, I almost feel like I was kind of forced to go to church, right? And in doing so, like I developed a background in my faith. But then when I got out of my parents' house, like it really took a back seat, And now that I've gotten older, it's come more to the forefront, And it's interesting because I sit there and different people that I've talked to who may have gotten into drugs or gotten into some kind of trouble, it was almost like they were searching for something, right? They wanted to fill a void, and they filled it with everything. And at some point, maybe it's because we get older, eventually they go to God. And it's like, okay, now I feel more fulfilled. And it's funny because like, whether it's food or drugs or sex or whatever it may be, it's kind of like, we're constantly looking for something to fill this void. And so we're finding the things that feel good, right? What feels good temporarily, right? And then we're trying to fill this void. And then we always end up back at the same place. And like a lot of times I sit there and go, hindsight's 20/20, and maybe that journey is meant to go that route. Because sometimes I say, man, if I would just stayed with it, like would I've been a much happier, younger person, But at the same time, it's kind of like, I told my mom, we talked about this recently. I said, I kind of started learning about the Bible more. I need to read it, but I'm, learning about the Bible more. But it's funny because like what turned me on was the historical portion of it. Like I love history, love it. And I was talking to my mom. I was excited, and it's stupid because I tell everybody, I said, I'm having epiphanies about stuff people already know, And so I'm like, hey, check this out. They're like, oh, I know, I've been telling you, And so my mom, we had a conversation. She goes, I've been trying to tell you. I said, look, I understand. But again, the conversation we had earlier where everybody's a little different. You got to approach everybody differently. I told her, I said, if you'd approached me on a historical aspect of the Bible,
I would have snatched that out of your hand.
I'd have been all in. But back then it was you force feeding me something that, I needed and probably didn't realize that I wanted. But I'm a little kid, or not a little kid. I was a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so yeah, you're gonna push back on everything your parents tell you. You know, they tell you, hey, John Bonham was a great drummer. You're gonna be like, no, he's terrible. Motley Crue's drummer is the best. You know, that's probably what you would say. You know, but it's interesting how a lot of times, a lot of people I talk to, we deviate from that relationship that we have with God, and like when we find it later on, we're like, oh, this is what I've been looking for.
There's a piece to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I read. I have this this app that sends me like philosophy quotes every day, and whether I read them or not, usually not. I tend to fall into more of a would you say Eastern philosophy, more Chinese philosophy than I do kind of like the Stoicism, Greco-Roman, whatever. But it was Voltaire, I think. I might be misquoting, but whatever. The quote's the same. But it was...
Nobody's looking this up on us. They're believing us.
Okay, good. I have the microphone. I know everything.
Yes.
But it's... callback. But it's... If God didn't exist, then humans would have invented him. You know? Just to be... Because there's like a comfort in just being like, yes, it's all... You know, like, give it to the... I mean, I think a lot of people that don't know God kind of use the universe as like a replacement term, when it is just who made the universe, you know? Well, if you go even past that, who made that? Oh, well, then it's God, you know?
Well, it's even like just to keep it even simpler. Like I'm gonna piss off a lot of people because I'm gonna call them Indians, but you know, with the Indians, like it was the earth.
Hey,
it
that's
was
not nice.
it was the earth. It was the wind. It was the sun. It was the river. You know, these were things they connected with spiritually. And it's like, well, who created all that? Same person. You know.
And so there's a theory that I have, and now we won't know until we die, and we're like, you know, what did God actually do, and what did He want? But my theory is that, you know, people couldn't understand, different civilizations can't, I mean, there are some religions that are very kind of like aggressive, and I don't think that that's God at all. I don't think that that's necessary religion.
You got to admit the snake handling's pretty dope, though.
For
to watch.
Oh.
I'm joking.
But Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, those specifically, you know, you have I'm dropping the word, but polytheistic. You know, it's so you have, like you said, you have the god of the sun and the river and the sky and the cloud and this one blade of grass that's over here and that other blade of grass that's over there, you know? And I think that maybe God split himself in people's minds just to be like, yes, this is this and this is this and this is this. But as we evolved as a culture, we could come to kind of like a monotheistic, you know, like instead of it being spread out everywhere, it's just all from one source, like you said.
Well, sometimes I feel like God, the Bible, can be complex.
Oh, yeah.
When you have a civilization that, and I'm not saying that, you know, Indians in the 18 and 1700s were complex thinkers, but when you have a society that's very simple, right? We're having children, we're feeding ourselves, we're maybe nomadic, so this is what we do. You know, we're not worried about, you know,
taxes
or you know what's a write off, you know, what can we're not concerned with that. Like literally there's probably 5 things we're worried about in the day. You know, it's the bear, it's the rattlesnake, it's eating, you know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes and I'm not saying this is what happened, but I could see God giving himself to us early on in a manner that we can digest it, right?
Yeah,
and it's like
that's a better way to phrase. Yes,
yeah, it's we can digest it a little bit easier because our life isn't that complex, or our mentality and our thought processes are more simple, right? It's, hey, we need to continue to have children, we need to, you know, stay warm in the wintertime, all this stuff. as we've progressed and our lives have got more complex and our thought processes have become more complex, we can understand our relationship to him more so than, hey, the water nourishes us and we need the water to live. We need the deer to live. It gets more complex. So
There's a book that I'm reading that I'm taking my time to read called The Practice and the Presence of God it was originally by Brother Lawrence, but it was written in like the 1600s. And so it's been kind of like translated, retranscribed, abridged, whatever, and so I'm about halfway through that. It's kind of like structured in like here's some conversations I had with Brother Lawrence, and then here's some letters he wrote to people, and then here's some like maxims and ways of thinking, like how to XYZ. And the basic concept is that, if you put God at the forefront of your mind all the time and you do everything for God and you realize that he's everywhere, then that which is kind of going back to like, what I was saying about like, if you're present, but who is present? God. God is ever present. God has everything planned out, and what's in the past, I don't know. I string theory, right? So it's like, the past is also happening at the same time as the future, but that's a whole different that's a whole different like mind fuck. But no, for me, God had been around forever, like.
So you grew up as a child around?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. My grandmother was Catholic, and then my mom was Catholic turned Christian, and then I Christian turned spiritual Christian. So I think we went to church a few times, but it was never like a priority to be like church. It was like Joel Osteen's on TV. Let's go listen to Joel Osteen, sit down and listen to something, be at home, kind of homebodies. And I kind of, for a long time,
I already love your family because I'm a homebody. But go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
You mentioned a shrimp boil earlier, and I was like, but my dad wants to do a crawfish boil, but because he's from my stepdad, and he's from Louisiana.
Okay.
So, but every single Sunday that we've had, and next Sunday's a cold front's coming in, and so he's like, I just want to make a crawfish boil, but the weather will not cooperate with me. But no, I remember praying, but I would always pray in rote. It'd be like the same prayer over and over and over again, but it would always be like, I'd get in the car and I'd go, Lord, protect me, blah, 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 blah. Same stuff, and then you're not really praying at that point. You're just like reciting a script. And so when I was depressed and really sad, and then after my cat passed, I went to go find this acting school because I had a friend of mine. He's like, you should go try voice acting. And I was like, well, there's a theater nearby that does acting. Let's go over there. Let's see what's happening. And so then I did a class. We can come back to that, but I did a class.
Real quick,
Yeah.
don't lose your train of thought. You're talking to the 1998 B County College Best Supporting Actor. I'm just letting you know. Go ahead, continue. I don't want to. I don't want to toot my own horn. I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot. So anyway, go ahead.
No.
I'm sorry.
So you get theater. So you get the whole When I walked in, and I was like, I gotta put powder on my face so that I don't shine for the cameras.
When you said that when you got here, I was like, damn, I forgot powder.
I would give mine to you, but I don't think you're the same.
Different
skin tone.
shades.
Yeah, I don't know anything about makeup.
I would have got accused of whiteface, so that'd be a whole nother mess. The Indians are already mad at me, but anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just keep checking off the list. It's fine.
I tell everybody I grew up not just with my siblings but my friends. I want to write a poem one day about. I tell everybody I grew up with assholes and motherfuckers. So that's where my comfort zone lives. Anyway, I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, you're fine. And so we can circle back to the acting, but they were moving out of this studio, and I was helping them move, and it was kind of serendipitous the way that it kind of happened, because I pricked my finger on a crown of thorns. Okay, so they had it as a prop for Passion of the Christ, and came home and smoked pot that day. But if we're being honest, we're being honest. And then then I heard God's voice speaking to me, and I kind of just like followed that train. And I have like a huge on my phone that I just don't go through because it's so like train of thought, no worries about punctuation or like spelling or anything, that it's all just kind of like, and so
Word salad.
Yeah. And so he spoke to me until like 5 a.m, and he was basically like proving himself to me in his way. And I look back at that and I'm like, well, he must think of me as something important in order to spend that much time. No, but
Did you feel? What did you feel when that was happening? Like, did you feel comfort, or did you feel anxiety, or did you feel peace? What did you feel?
I felt high. No.
Okay. Well, you had smoked pot, so.
Well, but I felt just a comfort, just a desire to know.
Okay.
Is kind of what I felt. And so then I fell asleep, and I had like 2 hours of sleep before I had to wake up and go help them for their last day of moving, because I had been helping them for like 12 days straight. They wanted to move out of their place in like 6 days, and I was like, you two are like 70 years old. You cannot by yourself do that. Let me help you, please.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything to do, so whatever. The next morning I woke up, I forgot how to speak, I forgot how to talk, or well, that's the same thing. I can't talk right now. But I forgot how to speak, and then everything that I was seeing was like I had woken up for the first time. And so I considered that day, which was late August, early September 2021.
Okay.
It was before I started journaling. Otherwise, I would check my journal and tell you when it was. And so I remember driving to go see the people, the coaches, and help them. And I remember feeling like the tread of the tires as I was driving the car. Something that you just don't even think about. You drive your car and you're like, I don't want to get hit today, like, or you're like, oh, the music's playing, oh, whatever. And then I remember seeing people and being able to like see like soul sight, and like being able to look at the purity of someone's soul, or
almost like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like maybe like an aura, or
kind of like that, but more like this is what, yes, yeah, not outwardly but inwardly, the soul that takes up the meat robot that we are, the meat skeleton, whatever. And so I took that, and I still didn't read the Bible for a while, and explored kind of just like talking and prayer and everything, and like, help me with depression, help me with this, help me with that. And then the music started to kind of flow, and that started to be an outlet for all my emotions, kind of like what you were saying earlier, is like with Van Gogh, where it's like, initially music to me was like an outlet to be like, this is emotion, I'm getting it out. And then it became something to like grow from, and I started to cherish it, and really like cultivate it, like with love and kindness and time, and a lot of like mental, like you're like, oh, this song wasn't good. No, it's fine. It's perfect. It's perfect because who are you judging it by? Like what standard are you judging it by? If you're judging it by a standard, then stop judging it by a standard.
Well, it's funny also too, and I think about like my job. It's not artistic at all. We're designing.
Designing is art, though.
Yeah,
at its core,
this is more of like commercial type thing, right? You're right. But it's funny because like you meet a deadline, and then there's another deadline, but you're never really finished with that project. If you went through it 100 times, you'd find 100 different things wrong, or 100 different ways to do it better. And so, like, I think, and again, you have more experience in the art world than what I do, but when I talk to friends of mine who are artists, and they all have a similar thing where there's this huge critical view of their work, right? And like a lot of times I would be critical of myself, 'cause like I told you earlier, I'm the biggest hypocrite you're going to meet, but I'd be super critical of myself. But when I look at somebody else and I hear their thoughts on their work, in my mind, I hear this is where you were in that time, you know? So when you created that work of art, and maybe it took you a day, maybe it took you a month, or however long, but when you were creating this thing, it's perfect in that time frame of where you were. And you gotta quit, like my jobs. At a certain point, you gotta quit looking at it. You gotta move on to the next piece of art, because all of a sudden you're no longer in that headspace that you were when you were creating that piece. You're in a different headspace now. Maybe it's real close, but you're still in a different headspace.
Oh, yeah.
So now you're viewing that piece of art that you created in the past with a new perspective, because you've learned, you've grown from that experience, but now you're holding it to a different standard that you weren't there your mentality wasn't there when you were creating that piece. So you got to quit judging it with this new perspective that you've grown into.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it sounds complex and crazy, but I think when it comes to art, whether you're a musician or a sculptor or a painter or whatever your media is, like, you have to give yourself a little bit of grace, leeway, whatever you want to call it, where you can say, hey, that's done. You know, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to tell people the things that drive me crazy about it. I'm going to let them enjoy it as well, and I'm moving on to the next piece.
Yeah.
Because it's an evolution, right? But it's not like your mind where, you know, sometimes you take things in and you feel a certain way about whether it's God or whether it's society or whatever it is, and then you grow some more and you go,
Fuck the system.
and then you grow some more and you go, okay, or you get older and maybe your responsibilities change and all of a sudden you don't have those views anymore, you know, so you can kind of, I don't think that way anymore, but I think this way now. So your mind's constantly evolving. You can't do that when it's canvas. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That piece can't continue to evolve the rest of your life, because that, like your brain will or your thoughts will. You have to take your written word and say, hey, I loved this at some point. I need to remember that I loved this piece.
Even in the moment that you're doing it.
Sure.
And I think that there's, you know, I love video games.
Okay. What's your favorite right now?
Oh my God.
Don't tell me.
Now, I mean, I always have a soft spot for Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
It's just a place where, and I'm, you know, nerd, right?
Okay,
so
okay.
Like,
Is this a Zelda spin-off kind of thing?
this?
Or the Kingdom Hearts?
Oh, this is Star Wars.
But I'm talking Kingdom Hearts. Is that kind of like a like a what is it? What do they call them?
It's
the
like
long
Disney
game?
plus Final Fantasy.
Okay. I remember Final
If
Fantasy.
you just like key in those things. There was a game I played about. I like to look for things for depth.
Okay.
And I think that sometimes, you know, music has reached a point where we crave depth, which is, you know, we can get into my like artsy fartsy what I'm creating, but I want to create depth, and I feel like the music industry is kind of like missing that a little bit. We're kind of missing the mark. But there's this game I played about this artist. It's a horror game, but it's the general story is that it's this artist who keeps finding this, like you have to find stuff to paint, like this canvas. And you finally get to the end of the game, he paints this canvas. He's like, it's not perfect. And he throws it in a closet that's full of like 400 of the same painting that he's just tried to paint over and over again. But you can't be perfect with your art unless you accept that it is perfect with its imperfections.
Right.
And so I think, you know, to what you were saying, though, about being self-critical, my music is, like I said, every single song that I write is perfect. I love it. I cherish it. It's equal. I mentioned my cat. So when I meditate and I pray, I think of like a garden. And so every time, the more I write, the bigger the garden gets. It expands and it grows and kind of like places to explore. And it's just a really safe, like meditative, you know, calming space. And for a long time, the devil was trying to get in, and it was like, no, you can't be here. And it was fighting that. And then fighting that for so long and creating this place of joy is where, you know, I have no issues with my music, you know, and I just kind of, people are like, how do you know that you're going to win a Grammy? How do you know that, you know, you're like my big dream that's not connected to like helping people and just releasing the music. My biggest dream, I'd love to sing a James Bond theme song.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I love like, cause I love power ballads. That's like where my voice likes to live. But
Let me ask you this.
yeah,
When are you going to do it?
when am I going to do what?
Record that song.
The James Bond song?
Mm-hmm.
Well, after I finish my EP.
Okay.
And I have a little time to,
Okay.
sit and.
Because let me tell you this, like,
But that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Like write a song
Yeah.
that's just like, yeah.
you know what's funny is I got a buddy of mine we recorded with once. He's coming back Thursday to record again. He's won I think 3 Grammys, 4 Grammys.
I need to talk to him.
Well, but he won them a long time ago, and it's interesting because like there's some clout that comes with awards, but it's kind of like, and not taking anything away from his experiences. That's amazing. That's an amazing accomplishment. But like he's progressed in his musical career to where the Grammys are awesome, but like, and this is where my mind goes. Right now, he's working with college students, teaching them Tejano music. And so he's posting things about this, and they have a show coming up, I think this week. But it's interesting because he does a lot of work with nonprofits and children and, trying to push the music scene and the culture. And like when I see that, maybe I'm just an idiot and I don't understand how important a Grammy is. But to me, that's way more impactful than the Grammy.
And see, I could smelt a Grammy. I don't care. I could use it as a paperweight.
Sure.
Just throw it on the table. The point of the Grammy is to open the door to be able to help more people.
You're right.
And
That makes sense.
So that's the only reason I go for the Grammy.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Grammy Award winner, yay! I mean, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it's like it pales in comparison to what you can do to do more outreach or to get your music to go help more people or to do whatever God wants me to do, etc. over here in the MOG of the future.
I'm not going to tell people to not pursue things like that because I think they're important. But it's funny. I'll tell you one experience I had that I was like, meh. And not that it was a big deal, but I had a friend of mine say, hey, there's this award thing, and they're taking nominees for different things, and one of them was podcast nominee. She's like, you need to do it. You need to do it. And I'm like, I didn't know what it was. I had no clue. Like I said, I work all the time. I'm doing this, editing. And so I was like, what I got to do? She told me how to do it, so I did it. And it was interesting because I'm not saying every award shows this way, but this one in particular, I went, all you got to do is nominate yourself. And she's like, yeah. Like in my mind, like I would feel better if somebody said, hey, I need to check Gabe out. And a lot of people said, you need to check Gabe out. And then eventually something came from that. I said, but I felt so weird nominating myself.
Yeah.
That it was like, after I did it was when I realized what it was. And I was kind of like, I come back to, okay, well, what's the important thing? Is the important thing. And I'm not telling you a Grammy's not a great thing. This is me in my mind where I was like, I'd rather have that friend call me and go, hey, I listened to that podcast about your buddy who was an alcoholic and it really resonated with.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's kind of like, okay, I put more stock in that. I get that the awards probably do open up more doors and get you more. And this is where I screw up, right? It's
just a vehicle towards
right
doing the same thing that you want to do. Like right. I told you, like this is a pipe dream.
Sure.
Being on a podcast is a pipe dream.
Oh no.
Oh stop. No, it really is because it's an opportunity for me to like share the story that I have that I know that I lived through for a reason to go help people.
Yeah.
I mean that's what helped me at the bottom of my depression was being like, they can help people.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, guess I can't die yet.
Well,
but
when you experience those experiences, and like my buddy Bob, we had that conversation. It's like I told Bob, I said, what's awesome about you, and the same thing for you is when you hit what you feel to be rock bottom, you're battle tested.
Oh yeah.
And it's like when I had the conversation with Bob, I'm like, dude, you made it. Like you have experiences. Most people, there might be somebody in the beginning of what you've already gone through that you might be able to help with some conversation
and reverse and
Yeah.
get them out. But then you deal with I love philosophy. But there's a Star Wars game, the Knights of the Old Republic, great game.
Okay.
Second game kind of deals with like deconstructing your previous concepts of the Jedi, and it's a lot more. I mean, you play the game and you're fighting and whatever. But like there's a philosophy thing, and it's kind of like, why did you help that person? And there's this lady, and she's kind of like, I think her ultimate spoiler. Her ultimatum is like she wants to destroy the Force. She wants it to just die because she thinks that it's more of a crutch and it hurts more people than it helps people. And so, you have her in your party and you go around and you like, someone's like, give me $5. And you're like, okay, here's $5. And she goes, why did you do that? Now you've just made him a bigger target to go get attacked by someone else. Now he can't fend for himself and he can't grow from the experience of being, and you're just like, well, don't I feel like a piece of shit? Like every but no, it's in the real world. It's good to be like, this is what I went through, and you give someone a new perspective. And if that doesn't help them, or they don't want to listen, then they'll figure it out. And so I think that I've always wanted to help people. And that's critical for me. Someday I'd love to sit in your chair, and I'd love to have a podcast where I interview musicians and really like get into the nitty gritty of like who they are as a person, where their music came from, and like, as opposed to kind of like, I think there's like a lot of surface level interviews. I think that's why podcasts became so big, is because you have an opportunity to not just, hey, welcome to the late night show. How was this movie? Tell me about this movie. Okay, see you later. You
can learn more in an hour than you can 7 minutes, kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because that's interesting what you're just mentioning. I have this.
I can go off on so many tangents. I'm sorry. I don't mean to
No. I actually have one from the very beginning that I want to circle back to, but we'll do that here in a minute. We talked about artists needing a support structure. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in my life, I've been a supporter more than a supported, even though I've been supported in my life. As an artist, what would be your advice to another artist who needs to lean on a support structure? Because I feel like, I kind of mentioned this earlier, where I had a family member and I feel like I was making life too easy, right? And it was when they decided to move on that I think they started doing better. I think they became more productive and more focused. And like, so part of me sits there and goes, I want to be the guy that makes life easy for people. I do. But it's like, at a certain point, it's like, where am I hindering somebody? Right. And I'm sure you've supported people. We talked earlier about you having a support structure also. A young artist who is starting off, like, what is that balance to where you're being productive in utilizing somebody's help as opposed to not being productive? And now you're just kind of almost retarding your growth, right? Like,
shutting up your ego.
I guess there's that, right? But like, I want people to understand, we talked earlier about Bam Margera, right? And it's like, I think a lot of times there's some people who want to pursue art that don't realize that, man, this has to be a full-time job, because we talked about that earlier. You might work 10 years in a craft and it doesn't pay off for 10 years, but then that's your back pay, right? Like, what is your advice to a young artist who's wanting to pursue their dreams, but at the same time, it's like, it's difficult, right?
But I'm still so young.
Well, but you've had more experiences than a lot of these younger people.
First you need to know to shut up your ego, because I feel like, when I was when I was like really, I keep circling back to this because, like I said, it was my rock bottom. So I learned a lot from it, right? So when I was depressed, I went through ego death, which is like the philosophy of like, oh, who are you? I got to remake who I am, and this isn't right, and let me take these pieces from my past self and put them here, and then figure out who I want to be, and then eventually you realize that you're always the person that you wanted to be, but that's you reach that point. But when you quiet your ego, you can finally start to realize what help you actually need. For me right now,
That's interesting.
for me at this very current moment, what I need right now, sometimes I feel like I'm more productive if there's somebody in the room with me. And I don't really have that. So it's kind of just like pulling at straws and just being like, I have to go sit at your piano, go sit down. Then I sit there and I'm like, oh, that was good, thanks. And then I'm there. But it's like that initiation thing. That might be ADHD too, but
That's super interesting because like
I would also say self-love is to also answer your question. I think about art because you have to. I just so that I make sure that I answer your question.
Yeah.
But I think shutting up your ego, self-love, and I think understanding what you're getting yourself into. I got into voice acting as a way to like pay bills, and now it's not really all that exciting of a thing.
Sure.
But music is one of those things where people are like, how do you know? And I said, I don't know. I just do. And if you have that feeling, if you just know that your art is going to take you somewhere, or your dream, or your whatever you want to do, your invention idea, your Shark Tank, pitch. If you have that faith, and then you ask God, and God gives you the go ahead, you don't have to explain anything. You just have to trust that. But then you have to know what you're getting yourself into, because I hate to say that it's lonely, but it is, yes.
No, that's all. That's interesting because those are just some perspectives that I haven't experienced, and I like that. I like the way you put that initially, where you talk about the ego death, and I've had conversations with people, and it's like I've got a problem with ego, and I know that I do, but I like that you said the part understanding what you need, because I think a lot of times when people don't focus on what they need, they focus on what they can get, right? And like that's
a great.
That's where you can ruin a relationship, right? Where I'm more apt to help somebody in need than somebody in want, right? And I think we're all that way. And now, granted, we have a different relationship. You love the person. Maybe they're your little sister. Maybe they're your parent. And it's like, I'll give them whatever they want, and within my means, right? But I think it's important that when you're receiving a gift, to understand to take what is needed.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to what is wanted. Because somebody is going without to help you go with, kind of thing. So that's awesome. I like that. I like those answers. I think those are awesome. But I do want to circle back to the very beginning. You talked about taking a break from therapy.
Before hypnotherapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
What got you to that point? Because I feel like there's times where people go into therapy, and I could be way off. Again, I push it out of my ass a lot. But I feel like a lot of times people go to therapy and it's like, that's not working. I need to go. I need more. I need more therapy because I'm not getting where I wanted to go, or I'm not feeling the way I thought I was going to feel. And sometimes I wonder if maybe a break from therapy, and I'm not saying get rid of therapy altogether, but maybe a break from it lets you reevaluate where you are.
Yes.
Was that your experience?
Yes, I think so. I think also I don't like spending money.
Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah.
So, but there's like self-help books are is a great analogy, because when are you going to put the self-help book down and actually go and do what
Practice.
the self-help book is practicing, you know, as opposed to being like, I feel bad, and you go back to therapy. Not insulting anybody that's doing that, because sometimes you do have a lot of shit that you have to talk about. And for me, or you know, in the case of hypnotherapy, you know, I told you that I just saw him 2 weeks ago. I'm seeing him again. That's the quickest turnaround time that I've ever seen Dr. Moyer. And it's just because, you know, the brain and the way that the brain, like the internal structure of my brain is like resisting the change. And so you just gotta, it's very neurochemical. And so that's a little different. But when it comes to therapy, it's like, you get the tools, you go. And I think I took the break because I felt momentum in life.
That's awesome.
And so I felt that, and then more recently, you know, it just shifted a little bit. And so I think worth talking about voice acting. I started acting. Good. Yeah. He's a good guy. He's very Christian, but he's a bad teacher. It's just really just not a good. You know, it's like you. I've owned a tutoring business for almost 9 years, and so I know like what you need to do in order to coach somebody, and what you don't do is break them down just to have a pressure makes diamonds type of mentality.
Well, it's similar to what we talked about earlier, where it's like you've got to approach people differently. You know,
yes, and
people,
also, yeah,
people
adapt.
absorb. They absorb information differently.
You can't have a blanket, especially when it comes to art. If you're like, here's biology, and it's like memorize these terms. Not really too many different ways to go about memorizing terms, but when it's like you need to act in this scene. How do you get it? How do you develop into character? How do you sit with this mindset of this person? Do you believe that you're the person? Do you go into method acting? Do you kind of create surface level because you can't get that deep? Is like, where are you on the skill tree? It's like a 3-dimensional. Art is 3-dimensional. I think anything that's not art is very 2-dimensional. You know, learn biology.
Right.
It's 2D. It's on
math.
a graph, right? But you want art, and you can go this way, but you can go this way, and you can go back this way, and you go up, and all of that is correct. You know, within boundaries, right? Like if you're trying to act a part for like a military officer, and you go,
Hi, everybody. I'm just your military officer.
it's not going to work, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of outside the box too much. But I think that, you know, for me, like, you know, that happened. I went through that, started voice acting, had a good experience with that coach, and then had an opportunity to, I don't know if you know Jennifer Hale. Jennifer Hale is probably one of the most renowned female voice actors that's out there. I had an opportunity to take a class with her.
Oh.
For her website, which is really good. To me, it's kind of like, it's a little overwhelming, a lot of stuff. And I like to kind of go on my own journey and not have, I like to reach out, like you were saying earlier, I like to reach out for help when I need help. I don't like help to always be here.
Right.
And feel like I'm like obligated to do this. And then I found my opera coach through there, and I found a voice acting coach after that. But then voice acting became this very, as you were saying earlier, it's a lot of tension, and it's a lot of stress, and it's a lot of the perfectionism, and it's the very antithesis of my music. My music is very much
It's probably more raw.
It's raw, but it's free, and I can do whatever I want. You know, I have no guidelines. You know, and I don't have to. I can if I wanted to, I could release a song every single day. I'm not that great with production, so it's not going to happen every single day.
Yeah.
But theoretically, you could. You could release 1 billion songs a day. Not that that's really like realistic.
With
but
AI, you might be able to.
You could. But with voice acting, it's kind of like what you were saying earlier about the jobs and about jobs kind of affecting you when you get fired from a job. But for voice acting, and for acting, I never really liked physical acting, being in front of a camera, but unless it's, you know, this. This is more personal. This is me. I'm not putting on a mask and being a character. And I don't like memorizing scripts. But voice acting, you search constantly for auditions and auditions and auditions and auditions and auditions. And you're in the booth and you're auditioning and you're working and you're working and you're working and nothing's happening and you're not getting anywhere. And you're like, to your point about the skateboarder that I can't remember the name of.
Bam.
Yes. And it's like you're developing your craft of searching for auditions but you're not getting any feedback, right? Like if you're skateboarding and you fall down, I fell down. Something happened. Why did I fall down? You know, as opposed to I didn't get this job could be anywhere between, oh, they wanted somebody with a slightly deeper voice. That's all they wanted. They just wanted that. But you gave them.
Do they explain that to you?
No.
Oh, so it's literally, hey, do you even get a call back to say, hey, we're not?
Hardly ever.
Oh, so you go and you audition, and then you sit and then may never hear back from. That's terrible.
It's really a mind fuck.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's not enjoyable, which is why I've been like, which is where I was having the momentum, right? And so I was like pushing, and I'm like, so you have to have these reels. And a reel is essentially you can do commercial, you can do narration, animation, video game, whatever. You can do a whole bunch of them. But the general two to start with is commercial and animation. So that you kind of have your like, hi, I'm welcome to HEB, blah, 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 that type of voice. And then you have one that's more, animated characters and like, different stories and whatever. And those are basically your business cards. And you send them, and those kind of open doors to get agents. And so the agents can open doors to other opportunities, and they can send you auditions. But before you get there, you have to do this. And it's like, it's just like a lot of the work that's out there right now is just not, it's like needle in the haystack for high quality work. Does it help to, and I'm sure it does. I also just don't like auditioning, but.
Well, I mean, I'm curious because when I hear that, I think about, this sounds so stupid, the connection I'm fixing to make, but I feel like this might be similar. It's like getting hired at the refinery where my sister works. Like, most people get hired, they already know somebody who's there. And so I wonder if building relationships with some of these people who
also, yes,
who are doing the listening or doing these things, like if I'm taking recordings from different people and I get 300 of them and 5 of them sound real similar, it's like how does that person go, hey, this is the person? A lot of it's kind of like, well,
it's almost just kind of like
we've worked with Sarah before. Yeah. Let's just bring Sarah in.
Also, yeah, I think there's that too. It's for me, it's just kind of it's a lot, and it's been distracting me from what my real purpose is, which is music. And I think eventually, down the line, if get a music manager, get a music agent, and they're pushing for stuff, and they're like, you want a voice acting agent? I'll be like, yes, of course. And then if that's like goes on in the background and that works, and then do stuff with that. Or if somebody asks me for something, then I'd be more than happy to do something, but kind of just not putting so much forced effort into that, because it feels like I'm trying to open a door by punching the doorknob.
Well, but I also think that like you being a voice actor and a musician, like there's so many avenues that relate to that skill.
Oh yeah.
It's not like you're a welder, right? And so you can weld aluminum, metal, blah blah blah. But like, yeah, there's kind of different avenues in that sense. But in the sense where whether
if you went from a welder to an electrician,
right,
you can't transfer any skills,
right, as easily as you can when you're using your voice as your art.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different. So I think you should stick with all of them. All the routes
for sure.
They need to all stay open
for sure. No, I never close a door.
Yeah,
unless it's to like, doing anything bad. Those doors stay closed. But like, I mean, I love characters. I love to be able to do that. But I love music more. I guess before I go too off on that train, I only have one really good impression.
You doing it?
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here. Just wanted to let you know that I'm sitting on a podcast.
but I don't have my puppet. I bought a Kermit the Frog puppet. It's the best investment I have. I use it when I tutor my kids, and sometimes they don't get something, and I just pull out Kermit, and it just relieves all the time. Most of the time. Sometimes kids are like, "What are you doing?" But most of the time, it's just like, they're like, "Did I do this right?" I don't know. Did you do that right? No. Yeah, right. You didn't. So,
you know what's funny is my 92-year-old father-in-law. One of his favorite songs is what is the Kermit Frog?
The Rainbow Connection.
The Rainbow Connection. He loves it. When he was in the hospital last year, my wife told me, she said, "Weirdest thing happened today." I said, "What?" She said, "I was sitting there with Daddy, and he just started singing Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog." And I said, "You like that song?" And he's like, "Oh, I love it." It's like, all right. And then you know what's funny is I downloaded it because maybe I've heard it when I was a kid, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I played it. I was like, that's a really good song.
I haven't heard that. I'm going to listen to that in the car on the way back.
We'll play it here in a minute.
Oh, see? But yeah, I mean, like, I'll show you because I have.
Now, let me tell you, I got super excited when you pull this out initially, and I think it's great that you keep your writings in there, but I was like, I haven't seen one of these since 94.
I had a 1-inch binder, and they didn't fit. I ran out of room.
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought you were gonna bust out a whole bunch of burnt CDs. That was kind of my jam back in the day. Was burnt.
Do you want some pirating? I pirated all these CDs off the internet.
Oh, pirating was awesome back in the day.
But I actually, it took me a long time to organize all this. It took me about a year and a half, just because everything was kind of, I would write reverse chronological, and so then I would have to like copy paste everything and move it chronological, and then sometimes I'd write on a piece of paper, and then sometimes the song wouldn't be done, and so I finally just did all that, and I just like before our initial last month when we were gonna meet the first time, I had just like that was the catalyst to be like, organize it now.
Yeah.
And so this weight
Yeah,
that's
I'm glad
put
I
on
could
my
help.
shoulders. Thanks. Yeah, unintentional consequence.
This is basically our art now, because I helped you organize.
Sure. If you, yeah.
I love taking credit for stuff that.
Yeah, you can
didn't do.
You can take as much credit as you want, except you can't.
So these are all your songs?
This is every single song that I've written. This song was about my cat that after she passed away, I wrote that. I took the opportunity to write that song just over time. Just kept kind of coming back to it when I needed to put words on paper.
Let me tell you something. My OCD is actually absolutely loving this portion of it. This back portion is giving me anxiety.
Why?
Because this is super organized and neat and pretty. And then here, back here, the brown stuff.
Oh,
I'm
these?
getting anxiety.
Oh, this. These are all just like notes of different, when I wrote a song on a piece of paper.
Oh, that's
just
awesome.
to keep in case I wanted to do something with that.
This is great stuff, man. This is your life.
Yeah, it is. So every song, thank you. But every song that you see in this chunk is from June of 2022 or after. Because I played piano since I was 5.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't not in like a...
No, but just...
I mean, I would do recitals
Sure.
and whatever. But, I never wanted to be a concert pianist. I thought that would suck the joy out of it. And now it's not like a regret, but it's like something that I wish I kind of tried.
Yeah.
Too late now. I guess it's never too late, but not in my purview. But I'm a good writer. I'm writing a book about, that's taking its time, that's been put on the back burner, but it's now on not the furthest back burner, since voice acting's on the furthest back burner. So it's like moving forward a little bit. But I love writing. I just, and it just flows, and it's this like, I feel there's a Madonna album. I was listening to this Madonna.
Is it with the cones?
Huh?
Madonna when she had the cones on?
I think that's Lady Gaga.
No, Madonna did it first. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Maybe you're right. I don't know. Each sharp. Which one's which?
When I hear Madonna, I think of the cones. I'm sorry.
Yeah. They're actually coming out with a collab. The two of them are doing a song coming out for, I think, the Devil Wears Prada, the sequel. The Devil Wears Prada. But there was a Madonna interview that she did with Jay Shetty about 9 or 10 months ago. And she talks about her like spiritual journey. And she says her Ray of Light album that she did back in 99,
Oh, that's right.
95.
That's the one that had the cowboy song where she was dressed like cowboy kicking the dirt.
No.
No?
I think that was after.
Okay, I love that
Before.
song. But anyway.
This is the one where she's kind of like on the cover. It's like blue, and she's like off on like the left hand side, like kind of looking forlorn out into the distance with her hair kind of like. Anyway, but she wrote that a year after she found her spiritual life, and she defines it as a ray of light. And so it just makes sense to me that there's like this connection that. You know, you're obviously a vessel for God.
Sure.
You know, it's not your art; it's God's art. He's allowing it to be put out and using you as. Why is He using you? That's a different question.
Yeah.
that could be a question that you could ask forever. But I feel so at peace when I do that, and I make it an effort to write at least once every 3 days.
Oh, okay.
So consistently. And if I want to write more often, I write more often. But, you know, so like today is the third day. So when I get home later tonight, I'll think of something. I don't know what I'm going to write about. I have no idea. But when I get there, you know, when I get closer to kind of like thinking about it, some like thought comes in, maybe a phrase, and then I just write, and it just happens. So, you know.
No, that's awesome.
There's 660
Really?
in here, so you're welcome to peruse.
That's awesome.
If you wanted to.
You know what's funny is my friend Sonny, like I said, he's coming Thursday. We talked about success, and Sonny makes a living off of being a musician.
Yeah.
It's a decent living, but it's somewhat modest.
I'll leave that there in case you wanted to look at it. Yeah.
It's somewhat modest, but part of me, when I think of success, I think of the people who've hit the pinnacle and are on top. Mm-hmm. But Sonny said one time, he said, you know what? When you can do your art regularly, and sometimes it helps you provide for yourself, that's being successful. It's not, you know, a 9-month European tour, which would be great, right? Because again, we talked about opening doors. That will open doors to where more people will get to hear your story.
And I get to go travel Europe.
And you get to travel Europe, you know? But it's kind of like for me, I design plumbing systems for a living. But that's not who I am. You are an artist. So you can't stop doing that portion of your life. If somebody offered me more money in a different job, I'd be doing it tomorrow. You can't turn that off.
No.
You know, and that's the difference between, you know, my job and your passion, because your passion is you. My job is something people pay me to do.
Right.
You know, and I go there and, you know, I hate it every day, but I do it because it pays bills, you know, but you can't stop being an artist. So I hope you continue to explore every avenue you can.
Oh, yeah.
And stick with it, because even if by the time you're 70, you know, and let's say the Grammy never came, you know, maybe Jim Henson's, you know, company never called you. But at the same time, if you got to live your life continuously pursuing your dreams, I think that's a successful life.
For sure. And I think that there's a you know, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is that it's so hard when here's another piece of advice for young artists, is that you grow up, you have to break the mold. The society wants you to live in this. Society wants you to do two things. Society wants you to climb the corporate ladder and then go be your own person at the same time. And it's like, that's a lot.
Well, that's that's the problem. They only want
So I
you.
threw away the ladder.
Yes, because when they encourage you to be your own person, it's with the time that you have left.
Yeah.
And it's not the bulk of your time, which in a perfect world, it would be the other way around. The
Yeah.
bulk of my time would be pursuing my dreams and my goals.
I think we'll get there eventually. I think we have a few.
Hopefully. I may not be around for it. But this is another thing that I would encourage people who want to pursue art is everybody has somebody who motivates them and somebody that encourages them through their art to pursue their passion. But you got to deviate, man. You know, when I was watching, I've seen it before, but Netflix has a thing on Led Zeppelin. And it's funny because I didn't realize this, but John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page were both studio musicians. And they were talking about Stairway to Heaven. And Jimmy Page said, the cardinal rule number one was when you started the song, whatever pace that song was, you never increase that pace of that song. He said that was cardinal rule number one.
Well, that makes sense.
He said, so when I wrote Stairway to Heaven, I made sure we started slow and we sped it up to its peak. He said, everybody thought that was ridiculous and crazy, and it was breaking cardinal rule number one. But
You got to know the rules in order to break them.
And to break them correctly.
Yes.
You know, and he said, so, you know, we started off slow, and he talked about, you know, throwing solos in. He said, and that solo was basically me pivoting the song to turn it up. You know, we were here, we threw a solo in, and at the end of the solo, we took off like a rocket, you know? And it's funny because, like, that's the stuff that, in my opinion, that's the stuff where people go, oh, I've never seen this before. You know, I was in high school in early 90s. So I was around for a big hair band, right? Talking Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses. And then it was funny because there was a show called Friday Night Flicks or something like that, videos. And that night, for the first time, they played Red Hot Chili Peppers, Give It Away, and Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. And it was funny because the next Monday, we're all in junior high out in front of the school. And it was like, did you watch Friday Night Flicks? Like, and it was like, what was that? You know, here it was like cocaine and booze and chicks and big hair and bikinis and everything was, you know, bright yellow and pink. And then all of a sudden it was dark and gloomy and it was plaid and it was boots and it was overnight changed.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because like if you want to be that change, you gotta dare to be completely different.
It's basically an immortal artist who's dealing with like the pain of people forgetting him and him loving his art so much, and it's just like it's beautifully.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
It's beautifully written, and the fact that I was gonna be able to maybe get paid for it is like a huge blessing. But I don't know where it went. Maybe the guy like shifted to a different project or something. But
You know what's interesting? That concept is very interesting because as an artist, I would imagine you create art for yourself. But the other side of that is
you create it for
creating art
yourself,
for
but you
other
release
people.
it. You release it for others.
And it's almost like that's the currency, is the positive feedback from others, right? I mean, financial currency is pretty great, but being able to have it received by others and for people to go, you know what? I really enjoyed it. Sounds great. To have people to say, man, I didn't like it because it made me feel a certain way. You know, well, that's good too.
That
right?
is good.
Because I wanted to mention this to you earlier. You know, when it comes to acting, when it comes to, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, but it's like my role as an actor is to portray a character realistically. But the fourth dimension to that is you sitting in the crowd or you at home watching this movie, believing it and invoking emotion. Like when you can make your audience believe you are who you are and invoke emotion, like you hit it out of the park.
you do it for acting and you do it for therapy too. And Dr. Moyer will also attest to this. I hope he hears this and he's like, yes, you were right. No, I'm just kidding.
I hope he likes, shares, and subscribes.
Make sure to share this on all of your socials and share it with all of your friends. But there's 3 levels. You have yourself, like if you're acting or if you're thinking about therapy or whatever, you have yourself. And then eventually you pull back and then you are the puppeteer of the actor. So you can kind of like, do like nitpicky movements. And then you step back another one and then you're watching the puppeteer do that and then seeing if there's like anything that, and you're watching the audience and you're watching everything else. And so there's like this layered kind of experience that you have the more that you do a certain craft. But no, that role that I had was going back to like doing takes in the microphone and stuff. And, but it's I put it away for so long, but, it's, where? Oh, darling, your podcast is so divine. I just absolutely love the setup you have. It makes me feel like I am on cloud 9. It is the most wonderful experience that I've ever had. And so it's like this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love, but it's this like it's this full body experience. But every time it's like, I love your pot, and then you would just like smack into the pot and it creates that peak that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But no, going back to like daring to dream, right? Fuck it. Mm-hmm. Fuck it. Why not? I in my depression, I started very nihilistic. I was like, nothing matters. And then it became not optimistic nihilism, which is nothing matters. So do it.
There's some freedom in that.
Yes, there's so much. And so my EP that's coming out, it was initially going to be on my 30th birthday, which is I just aged myself, which is going to be next month. But
hey, I'll be 50 in November, so you're good. So, you're great.
But it'll probably be like summer. Okay. But the whole concept of it is going back to what I was saying about like creating depth in art. So the first track is kind of like this intro track, and each segment of the intro track is almost like I worked very hard on it, but I produced that by myself, and I don't think I'm going to produce the rest by myself because it's a lot. But each section of it is like a tie-in to each of the tracks that you're going to listen to, and so it starts with the intro track, and then a very sad, depressing song that goes into a spoken word piece, that goes into an introspective song, that goes into another spoken word piece, that goes into a positive song. So you kind of are following this train along, not train, but
Well,
and then outro track.
That's how they used to make music. Nowadays they want a single. Nowadays, I like all kinds of music. One of the rappers I like is Big X the Plug. He's a rapper. But it's funny because I like some of his songs, but they're only like a minute and a half, 2 minutes long. And it was interesting because it's dawned on me that people are starting to make music for like TikTok or Instagram. So they only need 30 seconds.
I'm not even on social media.
Well, but that's the thing is they only need 30 seconds or 40 seconds.
Most of the time.
That's all they're trying to produce.
It's true, because people's attention spans and people's desire for music is quick hit music. Whereas I grew up a classical pianist. I grew up loving jazz. I grew up loving, and so that's kind of where I'm at, right? It's classical, jazz, indie, power ballad, like 80s power ballad. And so if you combine all those and put them in a blender, that's what you get from me. And I really want this EP, and then eventually I'm going to kind of like add it to an album, and I'm going to slap some stuff in there. The EP's been a little bit too... Creative restriction is great.
Sure.
But too much has made this process a little hard. Ease up next time. But I want it to feel like you're listening to a symphony. I want each track, I love, when I listen to an album and one track rolls into the next track, it is the most satisfying thing that I've ever, because I love classical music, because you follow this
Well,
trend all the way until the very end, as opposed to being like do 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 bar bar bar, and it's disruptive and it's fine.
you've got to go watch. You got to go to Netflix and watch Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page composed all the music, and it was interesting because Jimmy Page said, "We recorded everything on our own." He said, "So we owned it." He said, "We sold the album as is, so the radio or the music, the guys that owns the like Capitol Records, recording companies."
Yeah.
He said they had zero input on our album. He said, they wanted to cut singles out. We did not allow them. We sold this as an album. It went from the beginning to the end, and it was all one experience.
Did he do that for all of his? I don't know too
Yeah, I
much
think he
about
did
Led
it on
Zeppelin.
all of them. I think he did it for all of them because and it got to the point where they told the record company, "You're just going to put it out. You know, you're not making any changes. You're not doing anything." But that was the same thing where he said, "This is an album. It is a body of work, and it's all connected. All the songs, all the music rolls into each other. You know, everything's put in here for a reason because it's giving the listener an entire experience." He goes, and back then they wanted a single. We don't give you a single. You buy in the album. And it's interesting. You got to watch it because he had that same experience where, and even when he talked about writing songs, you know, the way he went about writing songs and everybody's contribution to that song that was in the band, you're gonna love it, man.
Yeah,
you'll love it. But it's important that that's how things used to be done. It was an album that gave you an entire experience, and now it's like, hey, we need sound bites for social media.
I also feel like sometimes I wish I was an artist in the 80s because I would have been like that would have been my jam.
70s may have been better because you would have had to do a lot of cocaine in the 80s. So
Well, I did shrooms once, but that's as far as I went.
you would have had to have done a lot of cocaine and wore Speedo everywhere you went.
No,
And then you'd have to have that fake tan. 80s were great, but
the Hulk Hogan tan.
yep.
But I mean, you're right. It's all about this. Sometimes I wonder if social media kind of like destroyed.
Oh, it did.
I wonder if it would be easier without social media. And some people are like, yes, but no. And I'm like,
Here's the thing about before social media. Like, I like big hair band music, right? So like when Motley Crue was going to come out with a new album, or sometimes they had these tapes, they would only put out 2 songs, right? They put out like the hit single and then like a B-side.
yeah.
And it was so hard to get to that music that when you got it, you were over the moon that you had it. You know,
Yeah.
people would, call your friends, come over. I just bought the new tape and we're going to listen to it in my room.
Yeah.
And now it's like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
That like it doesn't even matter. Like I don't even care that this new song came out. Because I've already heard it 100 times on TikTok and Instagram and everywhere else.
See, maybe that's a little different for me because I just don't like using social media.
Which is great.
And so when somebody was like, let's say, I love Lady Gaga. I think Lady Gaga is great. I think she's a great songwriter. I think she's in her niche, and I think she has a good heart for people. But people were like, abracadabra, like, because it was one on her most recent, like the big single that she had that like blew up and whatever. And they're like, this song is so annoying. And I'm like, I mean, I listen to it when I want to listen to it. Mm-hmm. I'm not, my experience isn't dictated by this, like sometimes if I pull up Fortnite, which isn't too terribly of a fun experience, and I hear a song that's like played, or people are doing like a dance emote or something, and I'm like, this song again. And I can only imagine like the elevated experience that people are having when they watch TikTok, and you're just like,
oh yeah, and you're getting bits and pieces of it, and that for the artist, like that's gotta suck, that you sit there and you produce an album, or even let's just say a song.
Some of the artist's best music is not a single, in my opinion. I sorry, continue.
No, it's the whole album. But that's the thing.
Well, that too.
That's the thing is they're taking 20 seconds of that song and they're force feeding everybody all day long, and all of a sudden you don't even care about that song. You may not have ever listened to the entirety of the song. And it's like, as an artist, yeah, you want to be marketable and you want to make money so you can continue to do your art. But at the same time, it's like,
I made it so you could listen to it.
right. And
not so you could chop it up.
And nobody wants that, and that's what Jimmy Page is in the 70s, late 60s, was telling record companies, no, you're going to take this whole thing, you're going to put the whole thing out, and because they were so good, they had to do it, otherwise we would just sell our album to somebody else because we own the rights. They weren't going to Capitol Records to go record or Sony. They were doing it in England in a house and producing it themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when you have that control, you have the ability to dictate how that gets put out.
Yeah. I think it's just some of my favorite songs by artists are ones that like nobody knows. And it's like, because sometimes, like you said, sometimes you make a single and you're like, I got to make the single for the record company so that I can get promotion for the album, blah, blah, blah. And those are the songs that get listened to the most. And then you have this like secret like track like off in the background that you just put so much effort into emotionally, and it just resonates so differently. I mean, there's so many artists that I could think of that do that, but whether I remember the song or not is despite. But do you have any, I was going to ask you, do you have any like huge, like your favorite artists, anybody that's inspired you? Or I know you obviously don't make music, but like, artists can inspire everybody.
I think some of the people that, there's a weird thing, right? There's music that inspires me, and then there's music that I just like listening to. I think I love Dwight Yoakam. Love him. Because he's so fun. Dwight Yoakam, he's a country guy.
Okay.
He's been around a long time. But he's a lot of fun.
Huh?
He's a lot of fun. But there's a guy named Tyler Childers. He's another country guy.
I know the name.
He's put out a few songs recently. But that guy's voice on some of his songs will just make you cry. And
is it the kind of, and I grew up in the, like,
it's similar. I'll play you one here in a minute. But it's one of those. He's got a very folky voice, kind of like Virginia, Kentucky type sound to him. But when he sings, it's like we were talking about the acting earlier. You're making the audience, you're invoking emotion in not the listener, they're the audience member. And it's like when that guy sings certain songs, there's some songs that are playful and fun. There's some songs that are heavy. And when he sings it, you can hear the stress in his voice. And you can hear the emotion in his voice. And man, it takes you back somewhere where you feel emotional.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like stuff like that, I love that kind of stuff. And then I just like, just gangster rap sometimes, right? But there's the thing is like people always say, I listen to everything. And I tell people I really try to listen to everything. And so like my little mixes on my phone, they're kind of random. But man, I really love when I want to feel emotional, I'll go listen to Tyler Childers. Because like I said, there's a lot of really good music out there, but there's very little music where it makes you feel the emotion that he's feeling while he's singing that song or when he was writing it. And this is one thing that I think is difficult for you guys who are musicians is you might write an amazing song, right? But you're going to play it for the next 20 years over and over and over again. And it's like, can you make me feel the same way I felt the first time you played that song? Can you make me feel that same way in 20 years?
Well, I think that's where acting comes in a little bit too. But you never try to replicate the result. You always just have to go, because sometimes, like say I'm doing like an intimate, like a funeral thing versus like on a stadium, two completely different scenarios, but I'm trying to invoke emotion, but I might be feeling a little bit different. So it's all about like walking in with intention, being like, I've done this song this many times. I mean, you as the artist know where the song is. You know how to get there because you've done it so much. I mean, you even if it's the first time you're actually like physically performing it, you've at least practiced it enough to get it on the album to have a studio recording.
Sure.
You know, and so you know the song, you know where the lyrics came from, unless you're just kind of just like reciting something. I think Adele is a great example.
Oh, Adele's the shit.
Adele.
Let me tell you something about the Grammys. You just.
Oh, when she got snubbed for her most recent album?
When she won all those Grammys.
Oh, that year. I was thinking her more recent one. Where she didn't win anything.
When I don't typically watch Grammys, but when I watched it because I thought Adele was the shit. When she went on there and won like 5 or 6 of them, I had an epiphany. I said, oh, she was so good that I said, the Grammys aren't validating Adele.
No.
Adele's validating the Grammys.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, okay, I'm starting to see what this really is. And that's kind of where, my thought were, okay, awards are great, but Adele's going to be the shit whether she won those Grammys or not, So anyway, you got me.
No,
you sent me on a tangent, Zach.
Adele is the...
You hit my passion point.
Adele is the only artist I would spend over $1,000 to go see in concert.
Oh, she's amazing.
She's the only one.
Now, I liked her fat. I know she lost a lot of weight, but, even Taylor Swift, for example. I'm not a big Taylor Swift person.
I think she has the way she can put lyrics together, her lyric capacity and her poetry.
I liked her better when she was getting shit on by dudes. That music was great. Fat Adele was amazing. Skinny Adele.
You don't like 30?
I haven't heard a lot of it. What was it? 21 was the big album, right?
20 or 2. I think whichever. 21 or 22.
That was a huge one. Like, hey, retire. Like, what? They were talking. I saw a thing on.
Someone Like You is the most. I think it's the most sold like physical record in existence ever.
Oh, really? And this is the thing. It was like,
I think
that talent, like, nobody's gonna validate that. You know who validates that talent? Or is the listener? Every single listener that listened to it over and over and knows the words and goes to the concert and can sing it, with her. It's like, that's the validation.
Yeah.
It's not granted, selling a lot of records and making a lot of money is great, but it's like, that's the validation.
As an artist, meeting Adele, because Adele is kind of like, she has that very classical kind of like component in her music, and her power ballads and her songwriting. She is like one of the artists that if I had the pleasure to meet, listen, I get to be on a podcast, right? And
sure?
like, so God is good. So, maybe he'll just be like, Adele wants to talk to you. I don't know. But no, what you're saying is Adele with that emotional capacity of being able to like sing a song. I mean, I don't know enough about her to know if she like trained that, but it feels so natural to her, when she's singing Someone Like You. And it doesn't feel like someone's just like, never mind, I'll find someone like you.
Well,
and so it's like this. She puts like this.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like
all the time. Every
time she sings that song, it's the pain, right? She brings that pain with that song. Like it's almost like that painful emotion is a lyric, right? It's like written in the song. When she sings that song, she cannot sing it unless it's painful. And like, that's the kind of shit I was mentioning earlier, where it's like, can you make me feel that way the 20th time, or the 100th time I listen to it? You go listen to Adele song, especially that early album, and it's like, it's painful, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a girl, her name's, she's from San Antonio. She's in a girl punk band called Girl in a Coma, Nina Diaz. There was a time there that she would charge you to cover a song, right? Hey, I'll cover the song. She has a great voice. Cover the song, and you pay her for it or whatever. It was her way of making a little extra money. And she would say, "How do you want it?" And I'm like, "Make me cry." That's what I tell every musician who I'm gonna hey, gonna play a song. What do you want? Make me cry, you know? Because if you can make me feel that emotion, like that's true passion, right? I can sing a song, or not me, but other people can sing a song and go through the motion, and they feel, oh, that's a cool song, good, or you got a beautiful voice. But I didn't feel anything.
You know what's interesting, as somebody who, because my opera coach and I have been talking about it, very quick sidebar is just like, I started opera as a way to be like, wow, opera singers have such great vocal health because they have to perform no mic to a full.
They've got to project.
You have to project, and you have to not destroy your voice doing it. What do? You know, because I want to not do that, but let me learn opera so I can sing it. I can sing in Italian, but you know, that's just to kind of anyway. But we were talking, and she's like, "You've reached the point where you're pretty good technically." You know, I mean, obviously, if I want to sit down and do like little things, I can train on that. But she's like, now we have to work on the emotion side because that's really important. So figuring out those together, it's like, it's for me, hearing a song and like pitching it, and Adele's hard because Adele has a wide range, and I try to like octave it down to sing in the range, but then I sometimes am like too low or whatever. Anyway. I'm trying to think of a male. My Way is a great song that I always come back to.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Which was a cover of a French Italian song, Canadian. What's that? Something like that. And so, but it's almost easier for me to put emotion into a song that's already there because I have kind of like the jumping off point of being like, these are the lyrics, this is what the backing sounds like, as opposed to what I'm doing with my music where I'm like, what was that word again? How do I feel? You know, it's interesting. I mean, it's layered because I obviously I know my music, but it's like you're creating it from scratch and you're like, that note didn't really fit. And so you keep kind of just like editing stuff. And you finally get to a place and then you have to practice it to the point where you're like, I know it. And then you have to add the emotion onto it, as opposed to a song that you're just like, I just need to know the melody, you know, for my way, you know, like What is a man? What has he got? And so it's like you can, but you know, I can hear it, and so then I can just fall into the emotion of it pretty quick.
Yeah. Zach, let's wrap this up because I meant you to play you a couple songs.
Yeah, sure.
When your EP comes out, how are people going to get a hold of it?
How are people going to get a hold of it? The single will come out on the 21st of May.
Okay.
And that should be released through every conceivable platform.
Okay.
You know, the
Spotify type things.
Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, all those different ones.
They can find you under your name?
They can find me under my name. In the description, there's a link tree link,
Okay.
And so you can go and you can kind of peruse all my different things and my website, which I need to work on it, getting Google verified in order for you, like, type in Zach Zagnoni into Google, and then it's like, where's my website? But we're working on that. Yeah. But no, the music will come out, and then the EP comes out. Maybe I'll come back and talk to you about that a little more.
That'd be cool.
When I have a definitive date on that, I don't know right now. Late summer, early fall.
Maybe we can even play it and listen to it and get shut down by YouTube.
No, because then you would be copywritten for my music, and then I could override your copyright.
Yeah, that we would have to go that route. Zach, I appreciate your time, man.
Of course.
Thank you for coming out. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
I really enjoyed talking about the therapy stuff because that's something that I think is important for folks. I think everybody has different levels of need. You know, some people will probably need a little more therapy than others, but I think even it can be therapeutic talking to a friend, right? And so I think that stuff's important. You know, I think the art's awesome, and like I said, you're an artist, man, so you can't stop. So don't stop.
You can always talk to Kermit the Frog.
Next time you're gonna have to sing the Rainbow song.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows?
I don't know. That's all of the song I know.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate
Of
you coming
course.
out, man.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina podcast.
Yo, Barry.